The entrance was not supposed to be there. That was the first thing, the thing that should have stopped them, that Marcus would think about afterward in the specific way you think about the moments that could have changed everything if you'd read them differently. The karst topography of Clinch Mountain in Scott County was well documented. The Virginia Cave Survey had been mapping the cave systems under these ridges since the 1960s, and the significant formations were known. Gorman Cave, the Cove Ridge System, the small seasonal openings that formed and collapsed and reformed along the fault lines. Marcus Hale had the survey data on his laptop and on printed topographical overlays, and he had cross-referenced them against the geological literature going back to the 1940s. The entrance in the creek bank above Straight Creek was not in any of it. He found it on a Thursday afternoon in early April while doing preliminary survey work for his thesis, a doctoral project on hydrological connectivity in karst systems, which was a dry academic way of saying that Marcus spent a lot of time figuring out how water moved through the limestone under the Virginia mountains. He had been measuring flow rates in the creek when he noticed the air coming from the bank. Not wind, the day was still. Air coming from somewhere in the bank, a steady exhalation of cave air, the particular cool and mineral smell of it unmistakable to anyone who had spent time underground. He put his hand against the bank and felt it. He dug at the vegetation with his fingers and found limestone beneath, and in the limestone, a crack, and in the crack, when he got his headlamp close, a passage. He called his team from the truck. There were 6 of them. This was not a number Marcus had planned for a thesis trip, but caving in unknown systems required bodies, and his department's safety protocols were clear on minimum team size for unmapped formations. So, 6. Marcus, 29, the team lead, the one with the academic purpose and the documentation equipment. Reyes, 27, his closest friend in the program, a geomorphologist whose specific interest was in cave formation patterns and who had been visibly excited since Marcus's call from the creek bank. Donna, 31, the most experienced caver in the group. She had done serious vertical work in the Appalachian systems and in caves in Tennessee and Kentucky, and she was the one whose judgment Marcus trusted most in a tight situation. Price, 24, a master's student who was there for course credit and who was a competent, if unspectacular, caver. Lynn, 26, who had the group's best photography equipment and who had talked her way onto the team by pointing out correctly that undocumented cave discoveries required documentation. And Soren, 33, the outlier, a high school science teacher from Jonesville who caved recreationally and who Donna had vouched for without reservation, which was all the vouching Marcus needed. 6 people going into a cave that wasn't on any map, in the limestone under Clinch Mountain on a Thursday in April. Marcus would be the only one who came out. The entrance was tight. A body-width squeeze through the crack in the limestone that required them to remove their packs and push them ahead. This was not unusual for cave entrances in the region. The Virginia karst systems often started narrow and opened deeper in. They went through one at a time. Donna first to assess what was on the other side, then Marcus, then the others in the order Donna called. What was on the other side was not what any of them had expected. Cave systems in the Virginia highlands were primarily of 2 types: stream caves, formed by the slow dissolution of limestone by flowing water over millennia, and dry caves, the remnants of ancient water systems long since drained or diverted. Both types had characteristic features: scalloped walls where water had moved, speleothems growing from ceiling and floor, the sediment deposits that told the hydrological history of the system. Marcus had been in dozens of both types in his 6 years of research. The passage they entered through the crack in the bank was neither. The passage beyond the entrance was wide, 8 feet across at the floor, expanding to perhaps 12 at head height, and it was level in a way that natural cave passages were rarely level. The floor was not sediment or bare limestone, but a compacted surface, smooth and consistent, that Donna put her knee on and examined for a long time before she said, "This has been walked on." She said it in the flat tone of a person reporting an observation rather than making a claim. The others took it the same way. 6 researchers and experienced cavers in an undocumented formation, led by one of the best field geologists in the group, and the first thing she says about the floor is that it has been walked on. They processed this without drama and moved forward. The passage ran approximately north into the mountain, maintaining its width and its level grade with a consistency that Marcus kept noting in his voice recorder. Passage continues level, width consistent, floor surface consistent. No apparent natural explanation for regularity of dimensions. He said this for 300 meters of passage. Then the passage descended. It did not descend gradually, the way natural cave passages descend. Not a slope, not a series of drops. It descended in steps. Cut steps, 8 inches high and 12 inches deep, carved into the limestone with a regularity that put the level passage behind them into immediate and stark context. Someone had built stairs going down into Clinch Mountain in Scott County, Virginia. Someone had built them long enough ago that the limestone had recrystallized over the cut surfaces in places, the slow geological process of calcium carbonate deposition laying a thin film over the tool marks. But under that film, on the faces of the steps where Donna chipped the surface carefully with her rock hammer, the marks of the cutting tool were still visible, regular, parallel. "How old?" Marcus said. Donna looked at the recrystallization. Minimum deposition rate for this type of calcite is roughly a millimeter per century. She measured the film thickness with her calipers. 3 millimeters approximately. She looked at him. 300 years minimum, since someone cut stairs going down into an unmapped cave under Clinch Mountain in Scott County, Virginia. 300 years of those stairs sitting in the dark, unused, waiting. "We go on," Marcus said. Nobody argued. This was, he would think later, the second moment that could have changed everything. The stairs descended for what Marcus's measuring wheel recorded as 80 meters of horizontal distance, losing approximately 30 meters of elevation. They emerged into a chamber. The chamber was large. His laser rangefinder put it at 40 meters wide and 60 meters long, with a ceiling that rose to approximately 15 meters at the highest point. His headlamp didn't reach the far wall. He got the dimensions by ranging. The others came down the stairs behind him and spread out, their headlamps making moving points of light in the dark. And the chamber did what large underground spaces do. It swallowed the light and gave it back only piecemeal, the ceiling and far walls remaining in shadow, regardless of how many lights were pointed at them. The floor of the chamber was the same compacted surface as the passage above, level, consistent, walked on. Along the walls, arranged at intervals of approximately 3 meters, were the formations. Lynn saw them first because Lynn had moved toward the right wall with her camera already out, documenting as she went, and her lens found them before anyone else's headlamp did. She called out once, just Marcus's name, a single syllable, in a tone that brought everyone to her position in under a minute. The formations were built against the wall, not speleothems, not natural features, built, the same way the stairs had been built, with the deliberate intention of someone who understood what they were making. They were cairn-like structures, roughly chest height, composed of bones. Not random accumulations, arranged. The word surfaced in Marcus's mind and would not leave it, arranged. The bones were sorted by type and size and assembled into structures that had an internal logic he could see without being able to articulate it. Long bones formed the vertical elements, smaller bones filled the spaces.
At the top of each structure, a skull, animal skulls, most of them, though Marcus was not a biologist and could not identify all the species. The structures ran the full perimeter of the chamber, 32 of them by Soren's count, each one consistent in height and general composition with the others, each one placed at that regular 3-meter interval. They were not old in the way the stairs were old. There was no recrystallization on the bone surfaces, no significant degradation of the material. Marcus could not date them by looking. Bone preservation in cave environments was complex and variable, but they did not have the appearance of structures that had been sitting in this chamber for 300 years. They had the appearance of structures that were maintained. "Someone comes here," Reyes said. He said it quietly, the way you say something in a space that has changed the volume at which it feels appropriate to speak. "Or something," Donna said. She said it without inflection, a pure observation, and nobody laughed or pushed back because they were all standing in a chamber at the bottom of 300-year-old stairs, looking at 32 arrangements of sordid bones, and the acoustic of the space was doing something to all of them that they would describe differently depending on their individual temperaments, but that amounted to the same thing, the certain knowledge that they were in a place that was not empty. Marcus documented everything. He was a researcher, and this was what he did. Voice recorder running, camera out, measurements taken, observations logged. He moved around the chamber systematically, recording each structure, noting its dimensions and composition, maintaining the professional discipline of documentation as a kind of anchor in a situation that his professional discipline had not prepared him for. He was aware, doing this, of the others moving in his peripheral vision, their headlamps swinging, their voices low. He was aware of the passage at the far end of the chamber. It was not the same as the passage they'd come in through, wider, and the entrance to it was not a natural opening or a cut passage. It was framed. The limestone on either side had been shaped, the edges cut into a rough arch, and in the arch something had been mounted that Marcus's headlamp identified after a moment as antlers. Not a single rack, many racks, layered, the oldest at the bottom and the most recent at the top, built up over time into a dense mass of branching bone that framed the passage entrance from floor to the top of the arch. Some of the lower antlers had recrystallized, the upper ones had not. The passage beyond the arch was dark. His headlamp didn't reach far enough to show where it went. "We're not going in there," Donna said. She was standing beside him, looking at the arch. "No," Marcus said. "We document what's here, and we go out. Yes."
They spent 40 minutes in the chamber. Marcus documented every structure. Lynn photographed everything. Reyes took samples from the floor surface and the wall near the oldest cairn structures. Price and Soren stayed near the stairs, which Marcus noted without comment. He understood the instinct, the desire to keep the exit visible. At the 40-minute mark, Donna said, "Time." They went back to the stairs. Marcus went last, as he'd come last into the chamber, the team lead's position. He turned at the base of the stairs and put his headlamp on the chamber one more time. The bone structures along the walls, the antler arch at the far end, the dark passage beyond it. The headlamp's beam reached approximately 20 meters into the chamber before the dark absorbed it. At the edge of the beam's reach, at the far end of the chamber near the antler arch, something was standing. Marcus looked at it for 3 seconds. He was precise about this afterward. He counted, deliberately, the way you count when you need to be certain of what you're reporting. 3 seconds of his headlamp on the far end of the chamber, and, at the edge of the light's reach, a shape. Vertical, still. Too large for the distance to make the proportions clear, but large. Present in the way that things are present when they are not incidental to the space they're occupying. Then Reyes called from the stairs above, "Marcus!" He turned and went up the stairs. He did not look back. He told them on the surface, not everything, not the shape at the far end of the chamber, not yet, because he needed to sit with that before he put it into language. But the chamber, the cairns, the stairs, the antler arch. They sat on the creek bank in the afternoon light, and he told them, and they talked about it in the way that researchers talk about things they haven't yet integrated, analytically, with qualifications, the professional reflex of people trained to suspend conclusion until the data was complete. Donna said they needed to come back with better equipment, stronger lights, a full survey kit, ideally a ground-penetrating radar unit to map what was beyond the arch without entering the passage. She said they needed to report the discovery to the Virginia Cave Survey and the National Speleological Society before they went any further. Marcus said yes to all of it. He agreed with all of it. He did not tell them what he had seen at the far end of the chamber. He told himself it was because he wasn't certain enough of what he'd seen to put it in the record. He told himself it was the responsible thing, the scientific thing, to hold an unverified observation until he had better data. He did not tell them, and they agreed to come back in 2 weeks with better equipment, and in the meantime to tell no one, because undocumented cave discoveries in Virginia had a way of attracting the wrong kind of attention: looters, amateur explorers, people who would disturb what was there before it could be properly documented. They went back in 2 weeks.
What happened in the cave on the second entry is the subject of the ongoing investigation by the Scott County Sheriff's Office and the Virginia State Police, who have sealed the entrance and are treating the area as an active scene. Marcus has given his statement 4 times. He has been consistent in every material detail. He is consistent now. 5 people entered the cave on the second entry: Marcus, Reyes, Donna, Price, Soren. Lynn had a family obligation and did not come. This detail has occurred to Marcus many times since. He does not linger on it because lingering on it produces a feeling he cannot manage and still function. He was the only one who came back up the stairs. He does not know fully what happened in the chamber on the second entry. He knows what he heard. He knows the sequence of events as he experienced them: the descent, the chamber, the moment the lights began to fail in a way that had no electrical explanation, the sounds from the direction of the arch, the 12 minutes of absolute dark during which he remained motionless at the base of the stairs with his back against the limestone wall and listened to things he has not yet fully described to investigators. The 12 minutes. The silence after the 12 minutes, the climb up the stairs alone. He has described the shape he saw on the first entry in his 4th statement to a state police investigator named Yates, who listened without expression and wrote it down. He described it as large. He described it as still. He described it as present at the edge of the light in a way that suggested it had been present for some time before he turned his headlamp in that direction. Yates asked, "How large?" Marcus said, "Larger than a person." He said, "Or a person at a distance can look larger than they are in the dark." He said, "I am not certain." Yates wrote this down. The entrance has been sealed with a steel plate bolted into the limestone, the kind of closure used for mines and unstable cave systems. There is a Scott County Sheriff's Office seal on the plate and a warning against entry. Marcus drove past it in June and sat in his truck and looked at it. He thought about the chamber, the 32 cairns maintained, the antler arch built over years and years of additions, the passage beyond the arch, the dark of it, what the dark contained. He thought about what Donna had said on the surface after the first entry: "Someone comes here." He thought about the stairs, 300 years old minimum, cut into the limestone by hands he could not account for. He thought about what it meant to maintain a space for 300 years, to keep the cairns ordered and the arch built up and the floor clean, in the dark under a mountain that no map recorded. He thought about what came up the stairs after him, whether it reached the steel plate, whether a steel plate bolted into limestone was the kind of boundary that meant anything to something that had been in that mountain for 300 years. He started the truck. He drove back to Jonesville, where he was staying while the investigation continued, and where he could not sleep and could not work and could not fully account for himself to the people who asked how he was doing. He is the sole survivor of the Clinch Mountain cave incident. The investigation is ongoing. The cave is sealed. The mountain is not.